Things seem so crazy and out of control. The missiles from Gaza are not stopping. People are spending their nights all around Israel in the bomb shelters. The streets of Israel seem to be on fire. Arabs lynching Jews all over the country in areas where Jews and Arabs have lived together peacefully for decades. And it really does feel that there's a complete loss of control and a sense of chaos and confusion, and where is this all heading? For me, the holiday of Shavuot, which we're going to be celebrating tonight, cannot come at a more perfect time. On a very personal level, this time, now, this moment, 77 years ago, a cattle train was making its way towards Auschwitz-Birkenau with my grandmother, her siblings, her nieces and nephews, and her parents. It arrived on Shavuot night in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Most of her immediate family was murdered that night in the gas chambers. My grandmother and her sister survived. Two other brothers were elsewhere and they survived. And they rebuilt. And my grandmother lived to see great-grandchildren living here in the land of Israel, where we sing every Friday night the Shalom Aleichem song that her father of blessed memory composed, where we sit around and we study the book, the holy book on the Torah, on the Bible that her father wrote. His great-great-grandchildren are alive and well in the land of Israel. I think about that on Shavuot night. I think about that today as we're going through this difficulty. But even more than that, what does Shavuot commemorate? The giving of the Torah at Sinai. And what are we told in the Torah? We are told that very difficult and challenging things, tragic events will take place. But then, as it says in Vayikra, Chavav, Membet, in Leviticus 26:42, God says, I will remember the covenant that I had with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, V'ha'aretz ezkor. And I'm also going to remember the land of Israel that belongs to the Jewish people. God says, I'll remember my covenant, I'll remember the land, and all will be good. Tonight on Shavuot, we commemorate the giving of that Torah from God at Sinai. And therefore, as we're going through this difficult time, and even likely spending Shavuot in bomb shelters, and with the army on guard, and the Air Force fighting for us to protect us, even with all of that going on, we have this covenant that we are commemorating and celebrating on Shavuot, where God says, I promise you, all is going to be good. You'll go through difficult times, you'll go through challenges, but I promise the end of the story is going to be good. And therefore, despite this challenging time, we as a nation, certainly me and my family, as we commemorate the Yahrzeit, the annual anniversary of the murder of most of our family in Auschwitz-Birkenau, but Am Yisrael Chai. We will continue, we will persevere, and as we accept the Torah tonight on Shavuot, let's remind ourselves of those psukim, of those verses where God promises that despite all the suffering, all the tragedies, all the catastrophes, you're gonna get through it, you're gonna get through it stronger, and we're heading to the most amazing times as this story of the state of Israel continues. We tune out the noise from the rest of the world. We tune out the horrific things that we're hearing from our enemies, and certainly the horrible things that they're doing, and we focus on the ultimate goal, which is continuing to build the land of Israel, continuing the flourishing and the re-strengthening of the Jewish people, and getting to that point where we fulfill our national destiny as a light unto the nations, built, centered on everything that happens here in the Jewish state, in the Jewish land of Israel.